friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Ruben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
Back in the basement, baby.
How are you?
Good. What's up, dude?
There's so much that's up, but I'm very excited. We're having our first repeat hookup today.
Oh, yeah. We love a repeat.
And I actually want to save a lot of what I want to talk about for our repeat hookup, but I do want to hear what is up with you.
I'm really good. I've been keeping busy. I've been keeping structured. Like, I get up, I go to yoga, I hustle all day looking for work, and then I go to AA and hang out with my husband. And yesterday, I treated myself. It kind of reminded me of how you were talking. This is like lowbrow, highbrow. You were talking on a previous episode about how you like took yourself out to dinner and then went to a Broadway show and then had a hookup. And I went to AA and then a sex party and then Wendy's. Honestly, it was incredible. It was just such a good, like, I had such a good day. And, you know, I treated the sex party as like a treat, as a reward.
Yeah.
Because there's part of me, yes, we do spend a lot of time like de-shaming sex. And there is a part of me that feels a little guilty, like scamming for dick when I feel like I should be online looking for a job.
Right.
So it was nice to sort of just calendar in a regular party that I know happens on Mondays. And I went with very low expectations. I actually kind of wanted to just like watch and jack off.
Okay.
But I ended up linking up with this really sexy guy really quickly into getting there. And he was my one and only.
Oh, nice.
Because like I always say, like, I don't need to fuck everybody. I just want to fuck somebody.
Right.
And he just, like, the sex was really good. He was a great kisser, like, hot body, great bottom, really good conversation afterward. We exchanged numbers, and we'll have, speaking of repeats, we'll probably meet up at some point.
Nice.
Yeah.
I cannot make a hookup happen.
For the life of you.
Oh my God. Now, granted, I have very discrete windows of availability.
Yes.
So I tell myself...
And you don't host here.
And I don't host here. So
correct.
Between those two things, I console myself with those two things, that it is not any value judgment of me or my profile, how I'm presenting myself, but the fact that I'm very limited to these discrete windows of time and I cannot host really limits my opportunities.
So the 7 Blowers reviews just like aren't doing their magic.
Now, listen, I'm hearing from people on Blowers and they all are referencing now like, hey, you have great reviews. Like all of a sudden, I don't know, you hit 7 and people start mentioning the reviews when they reach out to you. No, but people, as you have pointed out, one of the Blowers' lesser qualities is the geography of it all. Like, I will get contacted by people who are not nearly close enough to make something happen with.
Oh yeah, I don't understand the mapping function.
Right,
but
right.
Well, whatever. They can fix it in 2.0.
Exactly. So I do get hit up on Blowers. Blowers also has something akin to the Flash. Or what do you call it? A tap feature. Sorry, it's Flash on Blowers. It's the tap feature on Grindr.
Or like a woof.
Right.
Yeah.
But it comes as a message as opposed to, like in Scruff and Grindr, they're separate from messages.
Correct.
In Blowers, it is a message, and it even comes with a line of like predetermined text. Like you can choose the text, like from a selection of options.
Oh, right. Like there's like a multiple choice like drop down.
Yes,
You're
yes.
like, I'm woofing and I want to say this thing.
But it's stuff like, I can make you come, or like, you know. And so I don't really pay attention to those very much. Like if you want to start a conversation with me, actually start a conversation with me. So anyway, I've been getting a lot of flashes on the Blowers, sure, but again, they're not necessarily people who are near me. And it just, I don't know why I'm a magnet for these people who want to send me lots of pictures, tell me how hot I am, want to go through all the motions of telling me what they're into. And then at the last, second, it's like, oh, but I'm not looking for now, or for whatever reason, they can't make it happen. And why are you wasting my time?
And this is why we like to share. Like, it's important that we also discuss our misses because people have said, like, oh, you guys are having sex all the time. It's
No.
No. We talk about the sex that we do have.
Right, exactly.
But that's like 10% of the outreach.
So the 7th review that I got, that was 2 weeks ago now. And that was an unusual time period for me because that was like everybody was home, but everybody was already asleep. I had just brought myself home from one of those shows I took myself to.
Oh, your classy date night.
My classy date night. No, Wendy's for me. But nothing against Wendy's. I do love Wendy's.
It was fucking delicious.
I'm sure it was. Anyway, so it was a time that I'm never online because usually I'm just in bed. But I was a little tipsy from a couple glasses of wine, which I'm not a big wine drinker. And then the kids were asleep. My husband was asleep. I got this message from somebody a block away and I made it happen. But outside of that, the last time I've had like a proper, and that was quick. It was just me getting serviced. The last time I actually got topped by somebody in a hookup was in Provincetown, like over a month ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I
Brian.
said this to my husband the other night. He's like, well, I have topped you. Well, yes, you have, but like not a stranger. That being said, I did have a beautiful, long overdue because of just like one or the other of us being kind of out of sorts lately. Really, really nice hookup with my husband the other night. So that was lovely. But
it scratches the itch, but it's just not the same.
No, it really was good. It really was. And we, like I've mentioned before, like we try to switch it up now and again. We switched it up this time by changing rooms.
Ooh. Yeah. Brian's house actually has a lot of rooms, so you have a number of options. Which room?
Yes,
the kitchen.
We actually did it right here in the basement.
Oh,
this couch unfolds into a bed, and which was a little dangerous because there's less barriers between us and the kids. And this is where we end the night watching TV. And often when there's like a restless kid upstairs, they'll come downstairs. But we did close some doors and gates, and we made it without anybody coming down. But it was sexy. We turned off all the lights. It was even darker than our bedroom typically is. And it actually was sexy, just changing it up that little bit.
So that's 2 sources of inspiration for me that you have brought to this show recently.
Okay.
Number 1, I'm going to have sex with my husband in a different room.
Yeah.
And number 2, we still have yet to try my reading his sniffies threads while he sucks my dick.
I need to do that again. That was so hot, and we haven't done it since. And that was in July. So, yeah, we need to get back to
Oh my God, I just thought of something.
Yes.
What if I read my sniffies thread with the guy I'm hooking up with while he's servicing me? Like if he and I have this like back and forth and then we do meet up and he's like sucking my dick.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm going to read to you our thread back and forth. Because I'm fairly certain it's going to be like nasty. And also, we'll post
dramatic reading of our history together.
We'll pose the question
I thought you were going to throw your husband in there and say that like you were going to bring over somebody and read your correspondence together.
Oh, that's good
while
too.
Your husband was involved.
Okay, so option number 3.
Yeah.
Incredible. Keeping it alive, folks. Keeping it steamy 15 years in.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Listen, just changing a room.
You got to make the effort.
It could be as easy as that. I am excited to share with you this week's Hookup of the Week.
Great. I could use a little auditory stimulation.
Well, I've got some for you. Here we go.
Hookup of the Week.
My hookup story begins on a transatlantic flight. While I'm sitting in the seat next to my wife and teenage boys. Let me explain. I'm a gay man married to an asexual woman. And a few years ago, we both more fully came out to each other, decided to remain co-parents, but sleep in separate rooms. And we have a good friendship. I had a business trip to overseas for work. And because the country we were visiting was a country that one of my sons has always wanted to visit, I decided to take my family with me. On our transatlantic flight, I noticed a member of the flight crew who was very handsome and well put together. And I just noticed him a couple times, but I didn't do anything. and we went on with our trip. But a week and a half later, after traveling to multiple cities and spending close quarters with my family in between my work appointments in one hotel room for all of us, we do our journey home and get back on a transatlantic flight. And sure enough, that same crew member is on this flight. And I had just read an article that talked about how men don't compliment each other enough, that women are much better at this, and men should do it because just as women appreciate compliments, so do men. So I took this as a challenge to notice this crew member and say something nice. So I got up to use the bathroom. He happened to be in the hallway or the aisle of the airplane. And so I stopped and said, "Hey, your haircut looks on point. You look really great." And then I went and used the bathroom, went back to my seat and thought nothing of it. I thought, hey, I did it. About 10 minutes later, the crew member walks down the aisle and leans over as he is doing his job and whispers in my ear, "Hey, I really appreciate that. My hair is thinning. I feel very self-conscious about it, so I really appreciate your compliment." And then he continued on with his job. And I thought, how great is that? That I took the effort to compliment someone and it made a difference. That person really appreciated it. That article I read, it was right. Men should do that. And I don't know what came over me, but I realized I had a business card in my pocket. So I took it out. I wrote my cell phone number on it. And the next time he passed down the aisle, I handed it to him. Sure enough, a few minutes later, as I'm connected to the Wi-Fi on the airplane, I start getting messages from him. And we have a great conversation. I come out to him. He comes out to me. Turns out he is married to a man, but they have an open relationship. And we just have a really good conversation together. Later in the flight, it's nighttime, and I get a message from him. Most everyone on the plane is asleep. And he says, "Hey, I'm in the middle galley. Why don't you come down and we'll have a conversation?" So I did. And it was really good to be able to talk to someone as someone who's more newly out. I just didn't have a lot of opportunities to talk about gay experiences with another gay man. So I really appreciated it. At one point, he grabs my arm and presses it against his crotch, and he is very clearly hard. And I am excited and also a little anxious because here I am on this airplane with hundreds of people, and we are in the middle of the airplane. Anyone could walk in at any moment. But am I ever going to get this chance again? Well, common sense, I think, prevailed. And after a couple of squeezes, I said, "Hey, I'd really like to continue this another time." And I head back to my seat. Unfortunately, I had to help my family unload our luggage and get through customs. And as a member of the flight crew, he just breezed right through customs. So we didn't get a chance to talk after the plane. But we did continue our conversation through messaging. And, as the gay stars aligned, a year later, we both happened to have the same layover in the same city. We reconnected. But that's a story for another time.
Hookup of the week.
Gay guys will just get it anywhere. I am so grateful for this story. I also love that he says this crew member was handsome and put together. It's like shocking. Every man working on an airplane I've ever seen.
Don't you love so much about this?
I just like the present sense impression of their being together in the galley and like talking and the chemistry that they can both feel, and that there's a little bit of action, but, just enough to get a taste, and the fear, like people literally get off on that, right?
Yeah.
I love this story.
So much about it. I mean, the bravery, the just the giving the compliment, and then the fact that it led to a connection for somebody who really needed it. And then, it might not go as far sexually as some of our hookup of the weeks do, but just that moment of holding on to his crotch in the galley is so hot. I mean, it is how many people, haven't all of us had that fantasy that we are going to have some kind of hookup with a hot crew member of a flight that we are on?
Oh, I am always batting my eyes on every airplane I've ever been
on the return flight. I mean, it does all sound like fantasy, but I believe every word of it. I mean, it's so
I don't think this is made up at all.
And authentic. I just appreciate it so much.
I also want to touch on the compliment piece.
Yeah.
The reality is, it doesn't even matter what the compliment is.
Yeah.
Like, we all know that it's an opener.
Yeah.
And it's going to go, again, one of two ways. Like, they accept it and thank you, and the conversation keeps going, or they accept it and that's it.
Right.
But that you're right. I think you used the right word, brave.
Yeah.
Especially because he didn't have a ton of experience, as he, declares, interacting with other gay men or have the ability to have these kind of conversations, that he just read this article and thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. I love that.
Yeah. I'm so happy that this happened for this person. He just sounds so lovely.
I'm ready for part 2.
Yeah, I know.
I'm ready for the nasty part.
I know. Yes, that story for another time. Now's the time. Please record it and send it to us. We want to hear it. Thank you so much for sending that in.
Congratulations
I really love
on
also
that.
The variety of stories we're getting.
Oh, yeah. They're like all over the place.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. It really touches us that you all are touched by us to the degree that you want to share your stories with us and our listeners. We really just, and now we want to touch ourselves.
Compersion, baby. Like,
yes.
I love hearing about other people's active sexcapades.
Yeah. So cool. To send us one, please record it on your phone, on your voice recorder or voice memo app, depending on whether you're on an Android or iOS device, and then email it to us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. We really do love them, and we need more and more, so please do send them along. And we will be right back with our first repeat hookup with Chris Murphy. Chris was our very first guest, and now he's our very first repeat hookup.
Chris Murphy in just a bit. Welcome back, listeners. We have a very special guest. Our first repeat hookup, Chris Murphy, what up?
Wow, thank you for inviting me back.
It's very reminiscent of many repeat hookups that I have had, in that you have gotten hotter in the interval, and I am only embarrassed by my performance the first time.
Do you know, in preparation for this episode, I went back and listened to the last time you were here.
That's a good student. That's a good hookup.
That was tough to sit through.
Ooh.
So not
okay.
Not having anything to do with you.
I haven't listened.
That was our 8th episode.
Ever of all time.
Yeah.
I knew I was the first guest, but I didn't know exactly how many episodes.
That was our 8th episode. This is our 68th episode.
Oh my gosh. It would be fun if I was 69.
Well,
that would be fun. But that's okay. It's all right. I can be 68. That's great.
So we've gotten more practiced at this. We've become much more comfortable at this. And so you were our first guest, and now you're our 30th guest.
Wow.
So we've gotten some practice under our belts.
That's amazing. Well, I will say I had an amazing time last time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been back.
We're so excited that you're here. So to remind folks who may be new to us or forgot in the intervening 60 episodes, Chris Murphy is a staff writer at Vanity Fair, covering entertainment and popular culture.
That is still true.
Prior to joining Vanity Fair, he wrote for Vulture, New York Magazine. And Chris is also an actor and comedian who performs all over New York. Which I can attest to because, as I talked about last time you were here, looking at Chris's Instagram stories is exhausting because he is always somewhere.
I've muted you, to be quite honest.
That's so fair. Wow, I actually have to go. It's been so nice being back. I gotta leave.
You are always somewhere, either celebrating with friends, the amount of occasions you celebrate.
You know, honey, imagine how exhausting it is living it.
and when you're not celebrating the friends, you are on stage somewhere.
That is true. And I would say it's probably 1/3 celebrating with friends, 1/3 being on stage. Although this summer it's been a little while. I got to sort of dust off the cobwebs there a little bit. And then 1/3, I love to see a show. I love to be at a live event.
Yes.
So, but I think it's like, what's the point of living in New York City, center of the universe?
Yes.
If we're not always seeing things, doing things, and being things.
Yes.
Which I think hit all three of those different
Well, a little bit later into the episode, I do want you to indulge me because there are certain things that I can talk about with you that when I talk about them with Judson, he just stares at me blankly. I did this with you on the last episode as well, and there is a topic in terms of seeing theater that I do want to cover with you.
Oh, I'm so ready.
I'm already making the face.
Well, last time you said you just sang Britney Spears lyrics to yourself while we discussed the latest pop music releases at the time.
Absolutely.
That is true.
I encourage you to sing it out loud this time. You know, you can absolutely do two things at once.
Chris, I want to comfort you and let you know, and it sounds like you're having a great time, but it also sounds like you're just in the era of when friends have friends travel for birthdays. That will stop. Thank God.
I've never done that. And maybe that's because I don't have the self-confidence or the self-esteem to be like, hey, everybody, I want to go to Mexico, so you're all going to go to Mexico. And it's something that I would love to do one day, but the amount of planning, I am a Virgo, but I'm a very type B Virgo, and the amount of, I think, planning that would be involved in terms of like making that happen, which other people have done, and I have traveled and I will travel again for them. I don't have that in me. I did have one birthday in Fire Island though, but it was very much like if you're on the island, then you're
if you're there, come on through. That's,
you know?
I can't even muster that. I'm just like, I'm going to get dinner with my husband and go to bed at 8.
You know what? And
that sounds like a happy birthday.
And that sounds like a really great birthday to me too. But you know, still trying to get out there, hang with the youngins in my late 30s. No, my late early 30s. Sorry, I'm not in my late 30s. Strike that from the record. I'm not in my late 30s, and don't let anyone think that. No, I shouldn't even say that I'm in my 30s. I should lie and say I'm 26 or something.
I mean, you still look 26, and you are in your very early 30s. So I think we're safe. Speaking of the stage life, are you on any stages coming up? Any projects that you are working on that you are excited about?
Got some things that are exciting that I can't. I've always wanted to be this person, but I actually I can't talk yet about.
I love that.
One specific thing that is maybe on stage, maybe not on stage, maybe it's a different medium, but that is that I'm really excited about.
Okay.
That definitely deals with the stage. Well, I'll say that. So it's like it's theater related, but it's hard. It's like, I don't know, maybe, wow, I can't believe I got here. I'm harping on age. It doesn't even matter. But like a couple of years ago, it was a lot easier to like go to work all day and like write at VF and then be like, oh, like I can spend like 6 to 10 p.m. in rehearsal and like then do a play on the weekends and at nights. And like now, I don't know if my life is really organized in a way that is possible. But that being said, like a stand-up show every now and again, singing in a friend's concert, like that still happens, which is nice. But I do think fall is time to like, I'm going to lock in and get back in the game. I was just, I was away so much this summer. Traveling all over.
Yeah, you went on quite the trip.
Yeah, I did take 2 full weeks off and went to Madrid, Pride, London with my sister for her 30th birthday and my partner, and then Paris and then Marseille, which might have been my favorite. And then Madrid one more night again at the end, sort of round trip vibes. And yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And I do understand why people live in Europe and not here.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, I think I understand. Not because of anything that is in America, of course. Everything's perfect here.
Absolute silence.
There's not even we don't even know how to respond. There's not even,
I don't.
I am curious,
so bad.
How did you, it sounds like you really enjoyed it. My husband and I also went to Marseille a couple years ago to celebrate a banner birthday of his. How did you enjoy it there?
I think Marseille was secretly my favorite. It feels sort of like alt punk Paris. It's like, you think Paris is beautiful? Like, we're going to say, fuck you, Paris. There's graffiti. There's like, it's the grungy. One might even say it's the Brooklyn of France. But,
or like even, hyper specific. It's like a whole city that's a Bushwick.
Yeah, it's basically like, and I famously don't even love Bushwick that much here. Honestly, like I'll go to go to a party, but I would never live there. But Marseille is it has that vibe, but then also you're on the beach. And it's a rocky beach. It's like it's not the French Riviera. It's not Nice. It's not Cannes, but it's like, it is like beautiful, like rocky sort of, again, like difficult beaches, difficult people, difficult art, and kind of like grimy, a little bit grungy. I think when we were there, we learned that it used to be run by like the mafia. Like it was a big like Italian mob city. I think The French Connection, that movie, is set in Marseille, and that's all about the mafia. And that's why pizza's really big there too. Even though it's France, you got to get pizza in Marseille. that's something that's important. So I kind of liked it. But it's like, it's dangerous in the way that like Brooklyn is dangerous, where it's like, okay.
Here's how dope Marseille is. My husband was hospitalized in Marseille,
Whoa.
and he still loved it.
Okay, that is actually really...
What an endorsement.
That is 5 stars, I would say. Did you go to Le Trash Club?
I kept a pretty low profile while he was at the doctor.
Okay, I guess that's...
But
so
I
you didn't
did.
go to the cruising club while your husband
There was a bathhouse on the same block as our hotel. And I was very honest with him when I went to see him in the hospital the next morning. And I was like, honey, I know that this is a lot for all of us. So I did a little stress relief and went to the bathhouse last night.
One for you, one for me.
Yeah.
You get the hospital, I get the bath.
And he was like, oh, that's fine. I actually had sous vide chicken for dinner.
I absolutely think that's equal. That sounds delicious. 2 delicious experiences.
The last thing I'll say, we got a bill from the hospital a couple months later, because it takes a minute to like international mail, whatever. All the procedures, the entire hospital stay, the entire amount of care, cash money, $1,500.
Wow. Oh my God. That's actually not like in America, that would be sort of 7 times that.
It would be $120,000.
Yeah. I'm like, which is famously 7 times. I'm really good at math. That's crazy. That's so good. I got sick in London and I did like telehealth, very easy telehealth. They immediately gave me a prescription for antibiotics. They were like, I was like, which pharmacy are you going to send them to? And they were like, that we don't do that here. You can just go to any pharmacy and just show them the slip and then you get the antibiotics. The whole thing was like $15.
Wow.
Which is like less than an urgent care visit here. And I was like, oh, it's like actually nice to get sick here. So next time I get ill, maybe
that's it, folks. Get sick in Europe.
It's affordable. Ringing endorsement.
So we're not asking you this question yet. We will, but we ask every guest, as you know, and you were our first, what your daddy issue is. And last time we spoke,
oh my God, I have no earthly idea what I said.
You said you had recently moved in with your partner in the Bronx, and we talked about cohabitation. You talked about 2 men sharing space.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that it was the fact that it was his space you moved into rather than finding a space together. And I know you guys continue to live together, but there's been some updates since then.
Let's wake that up. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess that is true. Wow, it's been a minute since I've been here.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Bronx was lovely, and to all of my Bronx brothers and sisters and friends and former lovers, I absolutely celebrate you. But I don't think it wasn't long term for me. So yeah, now John and I, we live in Brooklyn. We live in Brooklyn, not too far from here, Crown Heights.
And you found a place together this time.
We found a place together,
sort of your collective place.
Yeah, and it actually is kind of funny. It happened really fast. So lived in the Bronx for like 7 months, and it made sense. He owned his apartment, still does up there. It's great. Didn't make sense for me for work and for life and for friendship and for the things that I do and the people that I see and whatnot. And I think he also needed like a push to do something different. He'd been living there for like 10 years, which again is great, but I think, creature of habit, force of habit. He was so close to work. It was so used to his routine. I think a little shakeup was probably good for him. So we looked for apartments, I guess, this time last summer. And we looked at like 4 apartments in like the Crown Heights area. And I sort of was like, ooh, like I want to be like, I want to be in Brooklyn, but I don't want to live in Brooklyn where I had lived before, which was like downtown Brooklyn near Brooklyn Heights or Boerum Hill, both really nice. But I want it to be, fresh start. If I'm going to make a move, like let's all do something new together. We look at it like 3 or 4 apartments. We find one that is very similar to his apartment in the Bronx. It's not as big, but like the layout, it's like a 2-bedroom. It's like really nice. And it's in a great part of town, close to the park, close to the museum and whatnot. And we were like, there were a bunch of people looking at it. So we'll just like put in an application, like whatever, like sure. And then, God, this is a little bit, it's not even self-aggrandizing, but we get contacted by the realtor and they're like, hey, so the owner of this apartment was like, oh, is that Chris Murphy? Like, I know him. We did a show together 9 years ago.
That's awesome.
At the Flea Theater. He lives in, shout out to Tommy Bernardi. Love you, girl. He moved to Italy. He has like 1 apartment that he rents out. And even though there were other people who offered more rent above asking on rent, which is illegal and should be illegal, and nobody should be able to do that, for renting. If it says something on Street Easy, that's exactly what you should be expected to pay. But people were offering more rent than us for the apartment. But he was like, I know Chris, and Chris gets the apartment. So we moved it happened really fast.
Wow.
Yeah. And fun fact, me and Tommy, we did also go on one like bad date while we were in that show, because we had to like kiss in that show, and it was early 20s, what can you do? But it wasn't so bad that he didn't give me the apartment. So
That's amazing.
make out with your landlords. It works every time. That's my advice.
That's hysterical.
Every time.
Every time.
Trust me, I've tried, and that's how I've lost apartments.
Well, yeah, I guess that is fair. That is something to consider. But yeah, shout out Tommy. And the apartment's beautiful and amazing, and it has definitely changed our life, I think, for the better. Like it to be in a brand new space, new neighborhood, exploring things, new restaurants, close to friends, bars, the park. I love the park. Have you ever been?
Yes. To Prospect Park?
Yeah.
A few times.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a great park.
Pretty grand. So it's been great. I will say, yeah, John, my boyfriend. I never say partner, but today I'm saying partner. That's so crazy of me. My significant other still works in the Bronx, so that commute is a little gnarly, but I don't know. He does it.
I mean, his Instagram stories make it seem like he's got a great attitude about it.
You can read a lot on the train if you choose to take the train. If you have a car, which he has, you can drive too. And sometimes that is less long. Sometimes it's longer.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But he's making it work in a way that the reverse, because when I lived in the Bronx, I was coming downtown and like it was like an hour. And I think now his is like an hour and 15 minutes. I wasn't built for that.
No.
I wasn't built for long travels to get to work. I'm not one of God's strongest soldiers in that way. But
I mean,
you are in many ways.
You have to really fortify your soul to ride the subway for that long all the time.
Yeah. So also last time you were here, it was our first time having a guest. We were trying to be sensitive and not go too deep into any area. And then by the end of the conversation, we got a little more comfortable and we talked about being open.
Oh, yeah.
And, you were our first guest. I didn't know what we could get a guest to talk about yet.
Anything goes.
But one thing we talked about was rules and the lack of rules and how and trust. So as our first repeat hookup, I wanted to ask your thoughts on repeat hookups.
That's a good question. I'm more of a one-time, good time girl fling type of person. Just because I do think it is like it's like, okay, I love my person that I'm with, and like I love to have sex with many different types of people.
Yeah,
I can get both without getting it messy in terms of like the blurred lines, to quote a bad Robin Thicke song.
Throwback.
I know. Hey, millennial, you got. The millennials remember. I don't know. What do y'all think?
Well, I'm flattered. Like, given that you're a one-time good time gal, the fact that you're here again, incredible. My husband and I both have repeats.
Yeah.
But nothing feels ultra regular. It kind of goes in waves, right? Like I won't see someone for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I'll see them like 2 weekends in a row. And then another 6 months will go by.
Yeah.
I'm kind of at a point right now where I kind of enjoy the guaranteed good time.
Yeah.
The guaranteed good time to me is trumping the investment of something new and exciting. But I don't necessarily always feel that way. This isn't even just like a stage in my life. This is just the fact that I'm like devoting my time looking for work. So when I need release, I'm like, oh.
You don't want to play. You don't want to mess with.
Yeah. I'm going to go to a party I know, or I'm going to call up somebody I know, get it arranged. So I'm into repeats.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And is like, I get, maybe it's my type B nature. I'm not a big scheduler. I'm very like, impulse driven, like, and so it's like right now, like what's happening right now on
totally.
an app, and then rather than okay, like Friday at 4, which I should be better about with many things in my life, but even like it's like, oh yes, like we'll see each other in 6 hours or whatever. I'm very like
I am very much a right now person when it comes to hookups.
Yeah.
But I've turned around. I used to be very no repeats. Similarly to what you're talking about, it just made me think that, like, how can you avoid strings becoming attached? But then I started to realize, because Toby and I started with a number of rules. One of them was no repeats, and then they just kind of like all fell away. And I started to realize that Toby has a number of repeats. And it did at first make me feel some kind of way. But he and I talked about it, and there was one in particular that really made me feel some kind of way, because I knew that sometimes it was just about getting coffee, or even if it wasn't, that there were at least conversations about maybe doing that at some point.
Totally.
And so we talked about it, and he was like, I will absolutely cut that one off. But I think for similar reasons to what you're talking about, Judson, like just the knowing what you're going to get, the convenience of it. But I think both in Toby's case, or maybe I'm not right about him, but in my case too, it is still very much about now. It's like I will like text somebody and be like, "Are you available now?" And if they're not, they're not. But it has become like, just it used to be for me, I needed validation from somebody new each time.
Yeah.
Or else it wasn't as validating. It wasn't as worth it. But now it's just about like, I want to have a little bit of something different than I usually have, and knowing that I've had success with somebody before just makes it easier. But I'm always curious to know, because I think a lot of people think like you do and I used to, that like a repeat can lead to something more.
It is a slippery slope, which is not necessarily true. It's so interesting too, because it's like when you said repeat, it's like in my head I had a very specific idea of like, oh well, a repeat is someone that like I know and that I text and that I schedule, and like a repeat isn't like someone that is started on Grindr that I've hooked up with multiple times. Right. When that actually is a repeat. Like, right. Well, I'm like, well, that's different, because it's like we only have that. Like, it's only, and it only happens like I'm not like ever like planning on doing it, but I'm like, if I'm up and he's up and what have you, like. So I guess it's funny how your brain can sort of rationalize or be like, oh, well, like a repeat looks like this, but it doesn't look like, this other, some
actual repeat.
Another actual repeat, because, well, I don't have his phone number. I have it. It was, twice a couple months ago, and then like, or it's like the last couple of times we chatted, like it didn't end up happening, but like, it maybe, but it's happened multiple times. So I do think I have to call myself in on, on sort of.
Well, that's something else that I've evolved with because of the podcast, is because I never used to exchange phone numbers. And then Judson would tell me like, oh, I have all these phone numbers. And now I've started to, in certain cases, exchange phone numbers so that I can just much more conveniently make something happen.
Way more convenient if like at a party or something. And also I need to sort of go through my phone and be like, well, who is like a hot bottom GBU? And whatever. So funny, like the arbitrary like rules and things that we play. They're not arbitrary, and like the rules can be great, and boundaries are important, and open communication is important. But in you just saying that, I was like, oh wait, I wasn't really being totally on the same page in terms of what a repeat
right.
The first time that we discussed it.
I mean, I even met someone, I mentioned earlier in the show that I went to Gush last night, and I was so surprised at the connection I made with this person, just because that's rarely my expectation, right? But it makes sense. It's like, there are cool people at sex parties. Like, I'm cool. I'm at a sex party.
So why wouldn't there be other
cool people?
People?
And like, sex at a sex party is different than sex in someone's home.
Yeah.
And this guy and I had a really great time. We got to talking. I was like, wow, this guy's really sexy and really cool. And I asked him to come out with me to close check so I could get his phone number. And he was like, oh, no, I'll just do it on my watch. Blew my mind.
Wow, we are living in the digital age.
The future is now.
It's here, baby.
This was actually the first time that I ever considered getting like a smartwatch. I was like, oh. But I'm really excited to meet up with him again, because we started texting each other right away, and just like things were revealed, like tastes were revealed in the texting.
I'm really excited.
Things that we couldn't necessarily explore not that we were embarrassed, but like we just didn't have the tools like
Yeah.
at a sex party. And also,
It's not what the venue is for.
yeah, it's not what the venue is for. And also, if you just think about like the layout and the comfort, like you're kind of limited on space, right?
Yeah.
You're on this like twin bed covered with.
And you better be using it because other people probably want to,
You do kind of feel like there's a time limit.
a little bit. Yeah. And you sort of like, it's a limited space. And, there's, if not a line, there are plenty of eager people who are going to use it in plenty of ways. So if you're sort of just sort of sitting and chatting, it depends on the space and the party. But I can understand how it might not provoke conversation.
Yeah.
in that
And
way.
so I have a pending repeat that
Ooh.
I am really excited about.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, the thing that's interesting is the guy he currently lives in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Okay. Well, that's.
But is also moving to Bushwick. And I'm like, either one of those is inconvenient. So from where we live, nothing about those particular neighborhoods. They're both great. It's just the travel time is like an hour 15.
Yeah.
either
that's
way.
That's like going from Crown Heights to the Bronx. That's like a commute. That is crazy. But hey, if it swings by the neighborhood or you happen to be in Bushwick or, God love it, Jersey City, then it's, then good. You can, shoot off a text. I do think that as I get older, the lengths I'm willing to go get shorter.
Yes.
In terms of like the proximity,
Oh, absolutely.
Brian won't travel more than 4 subway stops.
I will say,
getting on the subway
I
is
was-
even impressive.
I was speaking earlier on the podcast that I've been having a real hard time making hookups happen because I have just very discrete windows of time that I'm available. I don't host. So there's a lot of restrictions. And this morning I was chatting with somebody and it said he was 3.5 miles away. And I look, it was on Sniffy, so I could see where he was. I looked it up on Google Maps. It said it would take me 20 minutes by car. And I was ready to get in the car.
Wow. No, that's good. That's
Because
really...
I just wanted to make something happen. And then, of course, she was like, oh, but I can't host now. This was one of the people I was talking about who just like sends me all kinds of pictures and all kinds of interest. And then it's like, oh, but not now.
Not right now.
Then why do you want Sniffies?
So you meant now?
So annoying.
As a sometimes just fun scroller, I get that. That's more grinder energy.
I think that's grinder energy. I think Sniffies is a now experience, but maybe, I mean, clearly I am wrong. You also said last time you were here when talking about, rules, that because the Bronx apartment really felt like your boyfriend's apartment, that you wouldn't host there because that just felt strange. Has that changed for you now that this is your own apartment?
I'm still more of a travel. I'm still more of a, let me go out and go and, because also like we have a dog. We also have a part-time roommate who's sometimes in, sometimes out. So that it can get really complicated and sort of tricky in that regard. So I prefer, and I think this has always been my tea is I prefer to tea. I prefer to travel.
Yeah.
So
and plus you get to visit all these
see new
apartments,
get a Gatorade on the ride back, like that.
Yeah, I think Toby would be a traveler regardless. I mean, we have the rules because of the family, but like he just likes to see other people's.
It's nice to see other apartments, and also to sometimes you're like, whoa, and this is gnarly, but sometimes you're like, whoa, this is really cool and beautiful. So I'm more of a still more out of the marital home.
So you're a magazine writer.
Yes.
There
can't you tell?
there's a magazine article that has been shared with me so many times, so many different ways, that is from The Cut, which is one of New York Magazine's verticals. Is that
my former employer, New York Magazine. It's one of its, I guess, verticals would make sense. It's one of its brands.
And it is called the title of the article is "We've Reached Peak Gay Sluttiness."
Yeah.
Now, we've all read this article.
Oh, yeah.
I've read it multiple times.
I've read it a couple times,
I have also read it more than once.
You know the writer.
I do. Hi, Steven. Steven Phillips-Horst, great comedian, really great writer, is one half of Talk Hole, which is a duo with, I'm going to pronounce Eric's name wrong, but it's Eric Schwartzow, and they used to write for Gawker, New Gawker, and they had like a column. It was always about like gay things and culture and was like kind of bitchy and kind of funny and very much like, real talk about things that were taboo topics or things that you didn't normally find. I mean, we would talk about, but not like in the pages of a magazine or whatnot.
Right.
So, and I really like Steven. I think he's like a super hilarious and like great person. I think the article, well, we can get into it, but I think he's a great writer.
So the article is, to me, about a very specific kind of group and experience. And so, but people have been sharing it because it is about, again, it's called We've Reached Peak Gay Sluttiness. And obviously we talk a lot about sex on this podcast.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
And in the article, it seems to imply that we're in a state of post shame. And that's why, all these groups are just having sex more than ever. There's no shame in talking about it and being open and even sexual in front of your friends. But I was really curious, Judson, for your take on the article, for Chris, for yours. I certainly have thoughts. I'm probably not doing the best job of summarizing it. Do you?
I read it through the very critical lens of a sober person.
Yeah.
And that is what drove me to read it again, because I had such an emotional response to it. Because I felt upon first read, let me put it this way, the tie of sex and drugs is unavoidable in the gay community.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is not everyone's experience.
Totally.
And part of the representation here kind of felt like, oh, you're not doing GHB? That's crazy. And I just think that is not true for a lot of people. I tried to think of like how you have sex, how Toby has sex, how my husband has sex. Neither one of you has been touched by the wand of addiction, but also like this is not a drug that you do to have sex.
No, never.
So in that regard, it felt like a very, very small portion of people. But the reality is, I still go out, right? And if you compare public GHB use now to 10 years ago, it's just wildly, wildly different. Like GHB a decade ago was so underground, and there was a lot of shame around it, largely because, and this never gets discussed in the article, it is very tied to crystal meth use as well. I'm not saying that everyone who uses GHB also does crystal meth. I'm not putting any sort of like moral judgment on any of those things. But the reality is, if you're feeling that kind of confidence and you're feeling that kind of arousal, it's not a far cry from like adding something to the mix. Mm-hmm. And I just know hundreds of men for whom that has become a problem, because that's the community I live in. So that was where I was like most critical. I didn't want anyone to walk away having read that feeling, oh, I'm not feeling confident, I'm not feeling sexy. If I just ingest this drug that has a very fine line between confident, aroused, and dead, like I'll be good.
Yeah, I think that's so real and smart, and I do think Steven did a good job of making very clear like how fine that line is when he gets into the, you drink 60 beers, you'll die, but 6 beers, it's 10x for drinking. And then for GHB, it's like 2.
Yeah.
Like
if you accidentally double the dose, you could die.
You could die. And so, I think that was laid out well. And I think that's so interesting just because I was reading it through the lens of like, this is a community that like, I know these girls very well. I was guessing I had friends who I will keep anonymous who were quoted in the article.
Right.
Some who are not anonymous too. Jackson and Bowen and people, But then also other friends who are like, who were interviewed for the article and whatnot. And it's a scene that like I very much see and like dip into from like a party, like, having friends who, do some of these things, but not even all of these things. But like I, was familiar with some of the, the forum. I don't even exactly remember what the names of the drugs are because I don't really do that all that often. But I know this scene. That's what I think. I think Steven did a really good job of painting a really vivid picture of a very specific scene that definitely exists in New York, in Brooklyn, in a specific part of Brooklyn even. And he gets to that, the Ridgewood, the M, the Bushwick, right? That exists. And I do think he does a good job of like not demonizing the scene. But I do think by virtue of that, there are also like, you leave some things on the table in terms of like, some of the potentially negative consequences and effects of what this scene might bring to people who engage in it. So it's like, I do think, and I think it's important, and because I know a bunch of people who also feel like, oh, like, why are we shining a light on this thing that's supposed to be happening behind closed doors? And like, this isn't for public consumption. And there's a reason that like these parties and the way that we consume these things, we do it within our community, and especially at a time when queer people across all spectrums, trans people, non-binary, gay, lesbian, you name it, are under attack in our country. Why are we shining a harsher light on this, aspect of the community that is up for debate, or that could engender more hate or criticism towards us? And while I do think that's fair, I do also think it's like, as a journalist and a magazine writer, I totally understand the impulse to be like, this is something that is happening. We are supposed to chronicle what is happening in the world right now.
Right.
For the history books, for the future society, we're supposed to take a snapshot of certain things and see what trends and what's popular, what's not popular. And I do think Steven did a really accurate job of capturing the scene. My criticisms, which I'll stop talking in a second, I do think there was a little bit of, okay, so why? What? Like, what is the purpose, and why, and what could this lead to? And I think we leave things on the table here in order to paint a picture when it's like, ooh, there's some really interesting, like, intersectionality between this and capitalism, and this and the rise of fascism, and this, which are gestured toward.
They are.
But I think we could have gone further.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But my issue with the piece, if I have one, is that I felt that it tried to, or maybe this was just my reading of it, that it painted what is a very specific picture and made it feel universal. And I tell this story all the time. Like, the very first time I went to Twilo, which was one of the, clubs of the 90s in New York City, I love to dance. I moved to New York City. I was so excited there were places to dance. Like, I love to dance. And my friends took me to Twilo, and it was probably 4 a.m, and I was dancing. And somebody came up to me and said, "What are you on?" And I didn't understand the question. I didn't know what it meant. Like, I'm just so...
You're like, I'm on the dance floor, baby.
I'm so drug ignorant, and it's just not me. And so I read this, and I thought, oh, gosh, I want people to know that it is possible to have the sex lives we talk about on this podcast without the drugs.
Totally. But that's not... And I think that that's so true, but that's like, I understand, because I have a lot of empathy for Steven and for people who write long stories, because I think people forget or don't know like how much goes into them. They think that people just go like, oop, boop, 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 I'm writing, and then it's out in the world. It's like, there's so much feedback, and there are copy editors and fact checkers and your own editor who are guiding the piece, and it's like in moving it and shaping it. And I totally can understand that, like, the thrust of this piece. And again, I wasn't in the room. I wasn't in the editing room. And I do think it could have been edited a little tighter, if I do say so myself. But the thrust of this piece was like, this is a scene. How do you feel about this scene? This is a specific type of gay person that is living, and it's up to you. Are they thriving? Are they surviving? Are they flailing in New York City right now? And I do think at the end, sort of the move towards like, oh, it makes me feel insecure. It makes me, I don't know how I feel. I'm 38. He said that a bunch. Like, how do I fit into the scene? And, that sort of extrapolation, I think, is worth something, even if it's like, and I have friends who are like, oh, this was terrible, it's awful piece, like, ugh, like, who cares, like, it's whatever. And then I have friends who are like, wow, that was so honest and so, like, revealing about this subsection. It's like a subsection of a microcosm of a bigger.
Yeah.
It's like, it gets so, like, it's like a Russian doll thing, and we're at a very, like, deep Russian doll. And I can understand how it's like, oh, well, people are going to read this and think that, like, that's all there is in New York. And
I literally am so ignorant to it. Like, this was all news to me.
You haven't been to Basement then. Have you been to Basement?
I'm 51. No, I have not. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, it's not only, I mean, it's more like, I'm sure the people who are in the scene would be like, oh, it's not just Basement, but that's like a fun club, like this new, like, dancey, not only queer, but like, you'll see, a lot of this there, or like in Knockdown Center. Right?
But I'm
like,
also the kind of person who
these
this could be
parties.
happening in the group next to me, and I wouldn't know.
Well,
They're just drinking water. I don't know.
And I think that's more,
What's that really tiny? Why are they pipetting water?
There's a science experiment
Are they
going on.
chemists?
If I saw the pipettes, I think I would.
But no, I remember the first time that I saw it, I was like, "What is happening?" And I think I was in Fire Island like years ago, and then I'm not like a G person. Like that's just like I'm just not. Again, if there's one thing that I've established here, it's that I am too type B to function in some ways, and I just would not like be able to have my Apple Watch that I don't have tell me when I need to do another pipette to then like it's that's too much math, it's too much science. I don't want to do that. Doesn't sound like fun to me. I can live without it. But I have friends and acquaintances and enemies, not enemies, but who do it. And like, I wouldn't want to yuck anyone's yum. And I understand Steven's perspective here of like not of presenting it. Not without commentary, because there's a lot of commentary, but not being like, these men are terrible for doing this.
No, I'm not.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, I'm not saying this with any judgment. Yes.
What I thought was really universal about it, honestly, because I know that it's talking about a specific sliver of people in a specific time in a specific place. I think it touches on some universal concepts like the desire to socialize, the desire for friendships, the desire for sex. And we like to talk about all of these things. And it reminds me of an article that I read in the Times probably a decade ago that was basically about like no one thinks they're having the right amount of sex. Nobody thinks they're having the right amount of sex. Either people think they're not having enough, or they're not having it with enough intensity, or
they're having too much.
Or they're having too much, right? And I think he did a really excellent job touching on that.
Yeah.
And what it really reminded me of, too, just as I started to sort of like parse it out in my brain, was our conversation with Dr. Israel Martinez and like the reasons behind like why we have sex in the first place. And there's just so many reasons, like culturally and politically and medically, like given the safety mechanisms that we have in place, that we would want this kind of access right now.
Yeah.
That I really liked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's like on that too, which it's part of it. And this is where I think it could have gone a little bit further, is like, okay, yes, like with the improvements in science and PrEP and DoxyPep and all of these things that make it way easier and safer to have sex, it does feel sort of like it's our God-given right as gay people and queer people to, take back the AIDS crisis and have as much sex as we can and do it in, wherever we can, whenever we can, with some big, heavy, asterisks there. But I do think what is interesting and what is gestured to in the piece, which I'm like, ooh, that's so interesting, and I wish we even went further, is the idea of like, it's not really like the way that this sex is in the scene, in this community, it's not really, gay liberation, 70s, take back the AIDS crisis type of thing. It's more Californication, Silicon Valley. There's like the money that's involved, the drugs that are involved, there's a capitalist bent, because for all the, you got to spend money on all these drugs. You got to spend money on all these parties. Like there is like a big, who's profiting off of the rise in gay sex? Like why aren't we talking about how Mr. has taken over all of Fire Island, right? Like the whole downtown. Like there are people who are making money and profiting, and some of them are gay people and some of them are not. And some of those gay people are evil and whatnot. Who is winning in this thing that is, kind of based off of the idea of free love and self-expression and loving ourselves and our bodies and our sexuality. But there is like an interesting capitalist bent that is, I think, a little bit more unsettling when we like really go there. But you can say that about a lot of things. So, yeah.
I mean, also gestured to as well, there as, gayness specifically. I'm not talking about queerness. I'm talking about gay men. As gayness has become more and more mainstream, the places in the very centralized island of Manhattan have become much more mixed.
Yeah.
They're just crowd friendly. And these are places where these activities used to happen. So as like that happens. These places where sex like that used to happen get more mixed. Sex becomes less appropriate, right? The neighborhood gentrifies. The rent goes up. Everyone gets so far flung. So there's just like so many factors in place. And one of the things that's gestured to is like this is a reaction to gayness specifically becoming acceptable and becoming mainstream, and reacting to that by providing these spaces where we can still be kind of nasty.
Yeah, Pete Buttigieg and he coined a term that I was like, that's really funny. That, you know, there's, you know, gayness has become way more socially accepted and more mainstream. And yes, the idea of keeping, like we say, keep Austin weird, like keep gay sex weird, keep gay culture, still counterculture, keep it queer, counterculture, and not, in the center of Times Square next to the M&M store, right? Or, what have you. Like the idea of, I think that's so smart. Like it's on the outskirts, it's the sprawl, like it's moved to like the edges of society because people still, and I think that's really, I feel that impulse and need where it's like, like not everything can be sanitized for moms and dads in the Midwest for it to be appropriate. Like that can't be what gay culture is, or the total, bachelorette parties who come in and want to go to pieces. Like,
yeah, we talked about it recently.
That is, God bless them. Like better that than pitchforks, but that is annoying to some degree. And I understand the impulse of being like, I don't want to do that. I don't want that my social life or my sex, let alone my social life, my sex life to be pegged to that or surrounding that. So I'm going to really dive into these other spaces and create these other spaces. And I will say, going to some of these parties and events and whatnot, my relation to it is like, I think I dabble. Like sometimes I'll go to a party and then I'll come out and it's not like at all my main social scene, but I also love to dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's like, it can be really powerful and empowering and beautiful to be in a space with queer people. And I think, there are gay men, sure, but also the whole umbrella of queer people, and feel like free in that way. But with that freedom, there is a darker underbelly, and that I do think you like really pointed out. And I also would say, again, like magazine guy, I think the fact that Steven's piece engenders this much discussion means it's successful and means it did
absolutely. I haven't
job.
Been shared an article this much, and I can't remember how long. Really, it keeps getting sent to me.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's even though it doesn't do all of the things that we've said, it has gotten us to this point, which I think is what a magazine article should do. So,
absolutely.
Kudos, Steven.
The last article that did this was the cover story that Vanity Fair did on Wicked, written by Chris McPhee.
I was about to say the same conversations were being had about sex and love and queer community and drugs and alcohol. And that's what Wicked brings to the table.
Yeah, exactly.
When I write about it, that's what.
Would you like to ask Chris the question we ask all of our guests and that we asked him just over a year ago? Do you have a new answer?
We're going to ask you again because these things evolve.
I don't remember what my old answer is, and my new answer is going to sound so stupid in light of what we just talked about.
No. We can jog your memory.
Okay, what did I say last time?
Well, last time it was about cohabitation. You had just moved in.
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Well, let's ask the question.
What's your daddy issue?
Okay, my daddy issue, to take a hard left, but also to come right back around, is that I feel like my daddy issue is that nobody knows how to read anymore. Nobody reads anymore. And we just spent literally 20 minutes talking about an article that we all read, which is so fantastic. And I know that podcasts are a visual and audio medium, but working, like, I just feel everywhere. And I guess it's not like...
Ours have captions. People have to read.
That is true. That is fair. That is fair. The captions are huge. But yeah, I felt like this sort of like, and it is connected, I guess, a little bit in terms of what we were talking about, and the urge to party and like and go out and live and whatnot, is that this sort of like societal decline. And like, I'm not a TikTok person. Like, I'm not like, I didn't want that to be a front facing like influencer person, but it scares me like how little people are engaging with like the written word. And I say this fresh off of us having an amazing conversation about words. So, you know what? I can be proven wrong in a really beautiful
No,
way.
I don't disagree at all. You're a big reader. I love to read, but I don't find the time to do it.
I read a ton, and I am never happier. This is true. No matter what my day was like, when I am in my bed with my husband and we are both reading, I am just so calm and so at peace and so at ease. And it's one of the very few moments where I'm not just like catapulting through a to-do list.
Yeah.
I'm just really in the words. I love to read. It is such a good escape for me. I've always been a book nerd. And I don't have a very, I don't think I have necessarily a like super sophisticated palette about what I read.
It's not,
nor
right.
can I maintain like really diverse discussions. Like it's hard for me to talk about the books that I'm reading because I kind of just read them and enjoy. I'm in one book club and that's a
more
treat.
Than me, I would say. I've never been invited to a book club, and I'm mad at every friend I've ever had about that, but that's okay.
I've got one you could come to.
Okay.
Actually, I'm about to get kicked out. So
check your status before you.
Yeah, let me.
Can he replace you?
Let me see if I'm still in it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because my buddy and I co-founded it almost 8 years ago, and he had a very strict rule: if you miss 3 times, you're out. And I've definitely, I think, played my hand. Because as a co-founder, I was like, that rule doesn't apply.
Oh, yeah, you're above everybody. That's what, yeah. Elite, okay, see, that's what you got, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a elitist book club asshole.
My husband is very good about this, making sure that we have an hour every night where all 4 of us, the 2 of us and our 2 daughters, all sit around and read. For them, it's pretty much like, we are forcing you to make sure you are reading for an hour.
Learn. That's good. That's so good.
But it has been nice. Like I've started to break away from work and join them, and I really do love it. I've always loved to read. I'm envious of you, and I want to. The way that you. So I recently on an episode told Judson about there was a recent experience where I was being given head by my husband while I was reading his Sniffy's conversation with somebody else. And I thought it was the hottest thing in the world.
Oh yeah, that's so fun.
And so now I'm gonna,
that is reading, and that counts. That does count.
Now
as
what I
reading.
want to take from you, I want to get back to like just Toby and me lying in bed reading books, because what we do is we watch TV until it's time to go to bed.
And as someone who's I guess it's hard to. Maybe it's like the pivot back to the fall or whatever, but like finding time. I mean, even for going to work and then going to the gym and then also
coming to record a podcast, getting you here was worth my life.
That is true. I was really, really difficult to schedule these days. Really busy guy. But no, it's making space for everything, and then like reading that's going to fall, and then also sex, and then also, friends and family. Like I can't even imagine for 1 second having kids to then actually feed and clothe and raise even.
Yeah,
but
it's the raising that's the hardest part.
The raising feels like it's the hardest part. But yeah, I just like, I'm seeing it everywhere from like people discussing like the new Wuthering Heights trailer from Emerald Fennell and not actually having any idea what the book is
about. That it's even based on a book.
Or it's based on a book. So I'm like, what are you talking about? To people just not knowing anything. I guess it's more just sort of a cultural decline. But I find myself being part of the problem because I'm like, oh God, like when's the last time I picked up a book?
But you're writing the words.
That is true. I do think that is. And I think that's why I came here when I was like, oh, like what is like, because I was thinking a daddy issue, but I was thinking daddy and like kids and like and whatnot more so than like daddy today for whatever reason. And I was like, oh, it really does like scare me. The way that this. Because I don't remember it being this bad when I, not to be back in my day, but like I, was always going on websites and reading. And I get that things change and that like culture shifts in the way that I think, again, back to the article, like the way that we live and love and interact with each other changes over time. And,
certainly the way we consume media has changed.
Exactly. And it's like there's scrolling and TikTok and video and whatnot, but I just don't trust it. It's not the same.
No,
it's not the same, and it scares me. So
what's crazy too is also I was going to counter that, and then I'm going to counter my counter. There's like the rise of like bookcations, where people go just to read, but then just the sheer act of reading becomes a class issue, right?
Yeah,
it's like, who has $4,000 for a weekend in the Hamptons just to read a fucking book?
And read a book.
Brian, may I make some suggestions to make reading easy and fun for you?
Yes. I love to do it.
Yeah.
So what works for me, I don't like to read on a device because I find that if the
Agreed.
device has other options, I'm going to pursue the other options.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I read books.
Yeah.
I also have a huge hold list at the library. I have 6 books checked out at a time because I'm a fucking addict and I get nervous about finishing one and not having another one to pick up right away.
Wow. Okay.
And I want to relieve every single person listening of the following. There's this weird thing about like productivity and like pushing through. If you do not like the book that you are reading, you do not have to finish it. There is
Put it
so
down.
much opportunity cost in that there are so many better books.
There are so many.
Even if you're like 10 or 20 pages in and just not feeling it, because my belief is like you feel it.
Yeah.
Like I'm either into it or not into it. Like a slow roll in, I'm like, I don't think so. I either
Yeah.
like it right away or not.
And you put it down. and
You
you're good
don't
at
have to
that.
finish
You
it.
don't.
People feel so compelled to finish a book just because they started it. And that is a waste of your time. Unless it's the Bible, which you should read all
Cover
the
to
way
cover.
through.
So
Every night.
before we take a break and come back with our Go Ask Your Dad question, this is the moment when I wanted you to indulge me and talk
Oh.
theater for a second.
Oh, yeah.
And Judson's going to sing Britney Spears to himself.
Toxic.
So Judson jokes, and
Now I got it.
actually, I think he even joked on episode 8 because I just re-listened to it when you were on, that I keep trying to turn Dads and Daddies into a theater review podcast. But this one, I have to talk about this.
Yeah.
I just saw Masquerade.
Oh my God. I haven't even seen that yet. And I see things. Wait, how was it? Immersive Phantom.
So
Nothing could be
Masquerade
better.
is Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera meets Sleep No More. If Sleep No More doesn't mean anything to you, Sleep No More was a show that ran in New York for many, many years.
Yeah.
It was an immersive piece of theater. It was kind of a dance piece take on Shakespeare's Macbeth.
That would lead the audience through a big warehouse building with actors, and you would get separated from your friends, and you'd watch scenes, but it was sort of silent, and it was really...
You could walk in and explore and kind of take in the show as you wanted over like 5 floors of a building.
Mhm.
You were required to wear masks, and which they provided for you. And so immersive theater then became, quite the trend, and there were all kinds of attempts at it. But this is the first time I've seen something that is a known quantity,
Yeah.
and a known quantity, a linear story. Because with Sleep No More, you could just kind of roam as you wanted, and you could catch a scene here and catch a scene there, and kind of like put the story together in your head as you wanted. This is a known quantity, a linear story, and a musical.
Yeah.
It is. I cannot stop thinking about it.
Really? It's good?
Yes, it is. The experience is incredible. Can I nitpick? So first of all,
please. I haven't seen it yet, but
I'm not going to nitpick. But I'm saying, could I? Sure. Like there are things about it. Listen, Phantom of the Opera is a melodrama.
Yeah.
And in this environment, so the way they do it, and this is what they did with Sleep No More too, you buy a time slot, and they let in a certain amount of people at each time slot. So for Masquerade, there are 6 time slots per night.
Yeah.
7, 7:15, 7:30, 7:45, 8, 8:15. And with Masquerade, it's my understanding and my experience that they let in 60 people at a time.
Okay.
Which is crazy because that means only 360 people are seeing this every night.
Yeah.
And the expense of this show is
insane.
unreal.
I don't want to see their P&Ls. That's crazy.
So I don't know how it's going to work, but and the way they do it, they have 6 actors playing the Phantom. They have 6 actors playing Christine. So it's my understanding that each of them just do the show once. Although each Christine also, you're familiar with Phantom?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So each Christine also plays a Meg in another track.
Okay.
Because Meg is such a tiny role.
So they each, that makes
There's
sense.
3 roles, so I think they're each doing it twice.
They're each doing it twice.
According to my calculations, because I've been obsessively looking into this ever since, I think there's 3 Madame Giris.
Okay.
Because she essentially acts as your tour guide and narrator.
She takes you through. How many Carlottas are there?
I think there's 1 Carlotta a night, 1 Piangi, 1 Fairman, 1 Andre,
Okay.
2 bouquets for some reason.
Wow. Okay, I gotta see this.
It's so cool. So what I was going to say is it's Phantom of the Opera, which is melodrama. And when melodrama happens like within inches of your face, it can feel at times a little silly.
Yeah.
But for the most part, not. They've cast it largely with people who had spent careers doing Phantom.
So they know it like the
So we got Hugh Panaro as our Phantom, who I think played Phantom the second most of anybody on Broadway. He played it over 2,000 times.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He was incredible. The cast, the whole cast is incredible. The talent's huge. The way it is directed. So again, you're in a group of 60, and sometimes you are split even below that, like to 30. You never feel like, oh, they're standing in a better space than me. Like I always thought like, oh, I'm in the right space.
And engaged with what's happening.
Yes. It's very cool. There are scenes in the show that take place outside. Like, she says, if you know Phantom as well as I do, there's a moment where she takes Raoul to the roof of the building. And that scene happens on the roof of the building. You are outside on the roof of this building.
That's the things they're doing these days.
It's very, very cool. I will say it's like they broke it into a jigsaw puzzle and put the pieces back in a different order. So like the songs, all the tentpole songs are there.
Yeah. I'm not a Phantom purist, so I'm like, I'm happy to see it.
A lot of it's in different order.
Yeah.
They've also added an entire origin story. We now...
You know what?
We now see
why
how he came to the opera house. We now see why the mask is shaped like that. Like sort of all of that.
There's going to be a quiz at the end. I hope you know.
Yeah.
I'm already done with Britney's entire catalog. I've moved on to the Backstreet Boys.
But it's like it's so cool.
I'm like
they're so successful at it. It was so shocking how successful they were at it.
I mean, that's the thing that I love about theater. It's like it can be constantly reinvented, and you think you know something, and if the Phantom runs for 35 years, one production, it's like, and you're like, oh, it's coming back already. It's like, nope.
I know it had been gone from Broadway for like 2 years.
Yeah,
it is. But I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber is having this moment where like reinventing Cats as the Jellicle Ball, Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, it's so crazy because it's like he's never been my favorite, but then it's like
no, but who knew that he would be the source of like all this like reinvention?
Yeah, and it's like ripe for breaking it apart and putting it back together because in a way it's like, not to compare it to the very wonderful Into the Woods revival. It's like that's a perfect show, and there's really kind of, I mean, you can do some things with it, but you kind of are always going to do. It's like it's pretty set. Like you can't really. Sometimes it's like he might be almost too good to like really break down and like do something crazy with. I mean, never say never. I encourage any. I
want to do an immersive Into the Woods.
Immersive Into the Woods. I encourage that, but it's almost like because Lloyd Webber is not as sophisticated in certain ways, it's easier to sort of put your spin on it and sort of make something new.
Yeah,
and I encourage.
The two last things I will say about it is that the very first time Toby and I went to see the Jellicle Ball, we were seated right behind where the judges are, and the judge that night was your friend Cynthia.
Oh, yes.
Cynthia Erivo.
Yes.
And she was in our group of 60 at Masquerade.
She goes to a show. She loved the show.
So that was very cool.
She loves, and I'm so, wow. Now I'm like, would love to see her as the Phantom, honestly.
And I will warn anybody who's interested in seeing Masquerade that if you go wearing a mask in the shape of the Phantom's mask, even if it doesn't look anything like the Phantom's mask, they will have you change masks.
And you know what? I understand that it could be a safety thing, and it's probably hard enough with them if they think the mask, you get confused. It's probably
we saw several people in line having to change that because they will provide you a mask. They give you a whole dress code. Right now, you have to dress formal or cocktail attire, black, white, and silver only. Although, by the way, my husband was in green pants and not cocktail attire at all.
That's actually good to know.
And nobody made a thing. I think as long as you're dark and like not,
drawing
attention. But they also ask you to wear a mask, and they encourage you to bring your own, but they will supply you with one. And so many people in line had masks in the shape of the Phantom, even if they were like mirror ball they all were asked to change.
And I do get that, and I'm glad that I know, so I won't make that mistake. But no, no more a mask.
Do go. There's 2 ticket prices. They're all the same experience. The higher ticket price just gets you quote unquote front of the line access, which is there's no reason to be in the front of the line. And it gets you a table with a bottle of champagne after the show.
Okay, that's fine. But
so try to find the lower ticket price.
Yeah,
and I highly recommend Masquerade. Sorry, Judson, I'm done.
I'm actually going to go see this.
Yeah.
It's
doesn't
very
that sound
cool.
fun?
I can't stop thinking about it.
To my
Six-
husband's great dismay, I love Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
And, as a layperson, I think that the nostalgia for the 90s is not inconsequential to his Phoenix-like rise.
Ooh, I see that. I see it happen.
Who else can we bring back?
Yeah. Maybe Brittany. Well, she's busy. But there are.
She really is.
Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with our Go Ask Your Dad.
See you in a bit. Hey listeners, welcome back to Dads and Daddies. We've arrived at Go Ask Your Dad, where we address listener-submitted questions. Disclaimer, nobody here is a mental health professional. We just take your questions and use our lived experience to respond to them.
To submit a question, please email us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. Voice memos turn us on the most. And Judson is going to read us this week's question.
I'm 29 and my husband is 34. We have an open marriage. I completely relate to how you guys have described your passion and love for your husbands. I was wondering if you guys had any advice with some sexual rejection sensitivity. There are some times I strongly just crave our sexual connection, and other guys just don't cut it. But my husband may not be in the mood because of a rough day at work or any number of reasons and will often ask to have sex the next day, and sometimes that won't happen, leaving me feeling sympathetic to his day and mood, but also slightly off kilter. It also goes to say I have a rather high sex drive and his is lower. We don't often have sex with each other more than once a week, if that.
I understand as someone who's like not the like initiator a lot of the times. Like I'm very like I like when people come to me, and I like that. That's always been my thing. It's like it's sort of one might use the word submissive. There are other words to use. But I totally understand the husband's point of view where it's like, okay, I'm not in the mood right now, or it's not like a good time for me or whatnot. And I get how that's like hurtful and how that like feels like rejection and how that like gets you in your feelings and whatnot. And I feel like I do think being understanding, especially if there's like a libido discrepancy and just giving your partner, trying not to resent them for their own, their process and where they are in their lives right now. Because sometimes it's like if you live with someone, you're not always going to want to have sex at the same time. That just is not like, it just isn't realistic. And I think like maybe it's not like I'm fully having sex. Maybe it's like watching some porn or like jacking off together or something that's like less high lift, because it like, there can be a lot of energy into actually, having sex. So I think being creative in that way and exploring in that way is a good step forward. But I don't know. It's hard. It's a long-term relationship thing.
I agree with Chris's sort of broadening the definition of what sex looks like is really helpful. We've also talked previously on the many, many, many ways we can show our partners affection. And I relate because there is nothing like the connection I feel to my husband when and after we have sex. So I distinctly understand that type of craving. However, after 15 years together, the intimacy I'm looking for can be achieved in other ways. So that is a possibility for you. Also, I do think it's important to bring this up to your partner, just not in the moment. If you are in the mood and he has had a day, I don't think it's the best time for the discussion about the topic because it's so loaded, because it feels like this is where zero sum is appropriate. For someone to win, somebody has to lose, right?
Huh.
And I think these conversations are more easily had when it's less loaded. So I'm not saying sit on it, but maybe wait a day or two and say, hey, when we have a plan to be intimate with each other and you bow out for whatever reasons, I'm sympathetic to that, but here's how that makes me feel.
Yeah.
What can we do together to fix that?
I've been in that very situation. There have been times where Toby has not wanted to for whatever reason, and it has hurt me. But I did exactly what you're recommending, which is that like when the time was right to bring it up, and that was when we kind of decided like, okay, we commit to each other. Now it sounds like to this listener, the once a week that Toby and I have committed to each other might not be enough, but for us, like we will not go through a weekend without it happening, and we understand that commitment is important. I find it as it's a coming back, a coming together. That's really important to me. Now there are of course weeks that go by because one or other of us will be sick or there's travel, whatever, and it doesn't happen. But because we've had that conversation and because we know that there is this commitment, and also I've expressed that like, listen, I don't want to always be the one saying like, so it's tonight, like, I've said like, I would like you sometimes to be the one to say like, can we do it tonight? And having that conversation really turned everything around.
That's so good. And I guess having those parameters and having that discussion in a non-charged environment, just because, there's emotions that get into that where it's like, you're like, like one person wants to have sex, the other person doesn't really want to. That's not a conducive environment to be like, okay, like, how can we make this work for both of us? And having that sort of that general commitment being like, oh yeah, like once a week, which can become more and also can fluctuate, I think is a really healthy way to make sure that like everyone's getting what they need and that people aren't disappointed and expectations. Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like it's disappointing to you when you want to have sex with your husband and he's like, I'm not in the mood, I had a bad day. And I'm sure it's like disappointing to him to not be in the mood. Like I'm sure he doesn't want to not have sex with you. That's not his intention, but like people have different frequencies and different sex drives. So I do think establishing like, okay, we're going to like make sure whatever that cadence that works for both of you, establishing that in a safe space, not supercharged space, is a good way to start. And then being flexible, because that's like, I think flexibility is really important in a relationship.
And I think thinking about like, what are you really wanting to get out of this? This goes back to what you're saying, or both saying about broadening the definition of what it can be. Like, is it just intimacy? Is a cuddle, or is like sometimes I'll just say to Toby, want to make out? Can we just make out? And sometimes I'll offer, do you want a blowjob? And he'll say, I already came today, or I'm not really, but I'll give you one. There's like ways in the moment to like maybe compromise.
This listener uses the C word, like he calls out connection, and there's so many different ways
to connect
that aren't ejaculating that will lead to that kind of intimacy and that connection.
Yeah.
Just as an example, it's been a minute since my husband and I have been alone together. We have shared some sexual experiences with thirds and been to a couple parties. But just where we are, it just hasn't happened for the two of us very recently. And at the same time, I feel so, so, so deeply connected to this person in the way that he has shown up for me since I lost my job, right? So if the goal is connection, just amplify the ways that you can get there.
Yeah. And there are many ways.
Thank you so much for submitting the question.
Great question.
Our thoughts have been helpful to you.
So wildly relatable.
That is such a good question.
Thank you, Chris, for being our first.
Oh my God, Chris, thank you so much.
I can't believe it. You've had big stars on this podcast, the biggest, and you want little of me to come back. It's been so fun.
And now next time you're back, you'll officially be a friend with benefits.
Yeah. When am I?
Third time is crossing the threshold into friends with benefits.
If our listeners want to find you.
Yes. Oh my God. Where can they find me? Where they can find this friend with benefits? You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I am still on there. It's for work, but I also have a poster's heart at Christress, CHRISTRESS. And then you can find my writing at Vanity Fair and on vanityfair.com in the magazine and also online. And I'm so happy to be back. This is really...
We love you.
Thank you for joining us.
thank you all for being with us. Thank you for listening. Before you leave the platform on which you're listening to us, please, please, please do leave us a rating and write us a review. They mean so much to us. Check out our website, dadsanddaddies.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can buy some Dads and Daddies merch. And with that, I will say goodbye, and we will see you in a week.
See you in a week.